Husband's death reveals a secret he kept for over 64 years. After decades of marriage, it's often said that couples can communicate without words. You become intimately familiar with the minutiae of each other's habits, like how they take their tea or their morning routine right down to the smallest details. You might think that after a lifetime together, you've uncovered every secret your partner holds. But is that really the case? One woman from Trowbridge, Wiltshire, bid farewell to her lifelong companion and best friend. Yet, it wasn't until she began sorting through some old paperwork that she stumbled upon a revelation. Her husband had been harboring a significant secret throughout their entire marriage. The weight of this discovery left her questioning every cherished moment they had shared. Audrey and her husband, Glenn for short, had a marriage for the ages. In their 64 years together, the couple shared laughs, comfortable silences, and so much more in between. After decades of raising children and building their lives, they slid into their golden years hand in hand. Through sickness and in health is what they vowed to each other, and even Glenn's Parkinson's disease diagnosis couldn't shake their union. But their wedding bliss ended with Audrey at her husband's bedside in January of 2015, when Glenn passed away at the age of 83 from Parkinson's. With a heavy heart, Audrey started the exhaustive process of grieving her best friend. Once the rituals of death had passed and all the neighbors stopped bringing spare casseroles to share a hot meal's worth of sympathies, Audrey was left in the house she shared with Glenn, filled with the evidence of their marriage. One day, Audrey cleared out Glenn's old paperwork that she had no use for anymore. Before retirement, her husband was a civil engineer. She never involved herself in his work, but curiosity mixed with longing made her glance through the documents before they met the trash can. At first, skimming the pages of words scrawled in Glenn's familiar handwriting brought Audrey a pang of comfort. As she read through the sentences, though, the context of her husband's writings made absolutely no sense for that of a civil engineer. Reading through page after page, Audrey's stomach churned as she discovered the man she thought she'd known best out of anyone in the world had concealed a staggering secret. Glenn wasn't only a civil engineer, as he detailed in his writings. When Glenn was 13, word somehow reached the government officials that he possessed a photographic memory. Representatives from British intelligence approached the teen for recruitment in 1944, presenting him with a choice. From the word go, Glenn was sucked into the sensitive world of classified operations. He wrote about an official he'd known simply as Captain, who ushered him through his first assignment, a project he named Operation Double Cross. Since he was still a minor, Glenn's father had to grant permission for his son to become an official covert agent. The captain met with his father, who consented, then kept and died with his son's secret. He was the only other person aware of his spy identity. As part of Operation Double Cross, Glenn and many others engaged in various counter-espionage measures against the Nazis, whether that meant feeding false facts to captured Nazi soldiers or planting agents in with the enemy. British intelligence flooded the Germans with disinformation. Glenn specifically mentioned in his writings times when he crawled through the damp darkness of concrete pipes to infiltrate the walls of prisons. Then, once inside, he'd tell lies to German POWs before crawling out the way he came in. Throughout the next several decades, when the captain came calling, Glenn would hang up his civil engineering hat and dive back into his work as a spy. Simultaneous to his espionage duties, Glenn met, fell in love, and married Audrey. Finding out about her husband's secret life hurt and confused Audrey. She admitted, "I was completely oblivious. I have so many questions now that will never get answered. Why did I not know?" It led to reflection on Audrey's part to see if she could pinpoint moments where her husband's veneer had cracked. Glenn mostly worked from home while she went to her job as a home economics teacher. If he was sneaking off on covert missions, Audrey never noticed in their happy marriage. Glenn and Audrey welcomed 2 children, yet no hints of his governmental duties leaked to any of his loved ones. He'd be off assisting in the capture of enemy spies and still make it home for a quiet dinner with the family. The toll that concealment had on their relationship wasn't lost on Glenn. He addressed it in his writings, specifically how a spy career impacted Audrey. "I look back now and I think about what sort of life she must have had and how she'd put up with me despite the whiplash." The realization gave Audrey. She held on to the notion that Glenn wrote out his story so that one day his words would be read. Even if he hadn't specifically confided in her before passing, she had found out the truth through his voice on the page. In 2019, Audrey released Glenn's writings in a book titled Operation Double Cross and Me. Did I Have a Choice? Her aspiration was that readers would relish the opportunity to experience the life of a real-life spy and to honor the memory of her husband who bore his secrets in silence. Glenn belonged to a cohort of individuals who jeopardized their lives in a role often overlooked and unacknowledged. Their successes often remained shrouded until years later, when their contributions to history emerged. Yet, such anonymity was a familiar aspect of the undercover world.